Welcome, everyone. It's Andrew Beach with, 3 steps to career success. I guess that would be it. That's the page that I put together for my business. But I am a teacher of self-education. I help professionals like you communicate your value to find great opportunities faster. That's whether you're working or not. Just trying to deal with my studio lighting here today and working through some options. So if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Sometimes the audio is working, sometimes it is not. So if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Appreciate that. By the way, we're broadcasting live 3 p.m. every Friday. This is Career Happy Hour. This is an opportunity for you as a listener to get your questions answered about career. That could be interviewing, market planning, networking, LinkedIn, anything of that nature. I've got a couple of topics I'm going to cover today, so that would be good. Good. Thank you, Chelsea, for letting me know you can hear me. I am broadcasting on multiple platforms right now, LinkedIn, Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. So in Facebook, it's in my own private group, so you can do that. Good. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate the notification that you can hear me. That's great. So a couple of topics this great Friday. So if you can, please let me know in the chat what questions you have, where you're joining from, and how I can help be of service to you today. So let's get some of the things rolling here. Let me see. Good. Yeah. So here it is. Hey, little caption. It's Career Happy Hour. Put your questions in the chat. Happy to answer. Later on in the show, we'll actually be doing some live coaching support. So if you have a need, I'll put a link in the chat and you can actually come on live with me. I know a number of people have taken advantage of that. So if that's you, please come into the chat, grab the link, which I will share here in just a moment, and join. So that's that. Let me get that link right now, just so I can share it with you. Good. So I'll put that in the chat on the other platforms here. Let's make sure this works. And then I'll come over to LinkedIn. I'll put it in there as well. Hopefully that comes through and you all can see it. Looks like I can see it on my side, so we're good that way. So a couple of things happened this week. In fact, both of them, interestingly enough, happened in the last day or so. So the first one is I got an outreach, or somebody actually tagged me on LinkedIn and really asked to made an interesting statement. His name is Frank Mengert, and he's in the benefits management space. But he's doing a lot of work on LinkedIn with video and marketing and that sort of thing. And what I found was he had tagged me in a post that said he had received well over 2,000 resumes for 3 open positions at his own company. 2,000 resumes, 3 positions. Do the math. What are the odds that one resume is going to pop to the top and that person's getting hired? And so the statement he made, and it can be valid, but he had reviewed a lot of resumes and made a statement, hey, do not underestimate the value of or the power of a resume. And the statement I made was almost the opposite of that. Don't overestimate the power of the resume. All that indicates is your capacity to write a document that explains your expertise. That means you're good at writing. And you can pay somebody to do that work for you. What does that mean? So for a couple $100, maybe less, I can have somebody craft a resume that sings my song for me. And so that may actually be inflating my value potentially. And so then I percolate to the top, I get the interview, but I don't get the offer. And then the hiring team is left wondering what went wrong. They had the perfect resume. I'm sure you've never encountered that in your career where someone had the perfect resume but couldn't actually do the work. I'm sure that never happens. Okay. I'm sure it probably happens more than you think. And so the statement he made is do not underestimate the power of a resume. And so I want to share with you the response that I provided in the chat to that message. Let me get there and I'll provide it to you. So hang tight. Good to see all of you. If you're just joining, you can leave any questions you have. This is free career coaching for you. If you have any questions at all on career, interviewing, market planning, networking, etc. Okay. So here's my response to Frank. It said, thanks for tagging me, Frank. The downside of a resume that you are one of many. If you're relying on an ATS to get you interviews, it's a really crowded field. People being people, they will hire those that they know, like, and trust. Not much different than sales, right? The method that isn't very crowded is the networking piece. That's what makes LinkedIn so valuable. As you know, lots of great relationships have been formed on this platform. Don't overlook the value of meeting with people outside of your need for employment just to get to know them better. I view resume as a necessary evil. By paying a professional to write it, you increase your chances for sure, but that doesn't mean that you have the skills or expertise. It just means you can write a resume, paid or not. So that was my response to what Frank had mentioned in his video. Actually, I'll put a link to that right now so that you can watch that. Maybe it's this link here. Let me see. I'll grab a link to the video and I'll put it in the chat for you all. Grab link to post so that you can see it. It was actually a really good video. So maybe I'll get him some more views, some more traction for Frankie baby. So I'll put that in the chat for y'all. Good. There we go. So the video is in the chat. There we go. Okay. So any questions out there, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer. Terry says, yes, it does happen often. Hey, Erica, good to see you. Welcome. Good to have you on today. If there's any questions, please leave those in the chat. So the topic that we were talking about is resume. And I'm not denying that resume is a tool. It's a tool. It's one of many tools. And we don't know which of those tools will actually generate the result that we're looking for. My recommendation, use all the tools at your disposal. You don't know which one's going to actually hit and get you the interview or the job. Okay. So use them all. But the other thing is to recognize is that each tool has its own return on investment. And if I invest a lot of time, energy, and effort in online applications and resume and modifying and customizing and optimizing that process, I may not get the results that I want. Then what do I have? I've only been using one tool, application resume. And so that may not get you the results you want. Now that then you've turned to the next page and say, okay, well, the other tool is the networking. I haven't invested any time there, but I hope it'll work. And if I don't invest any time learning, developing, or improving that skill, how on earth am I going to potentially have any chance getting to the interview side of things? So there is a link in the chat. You should see it to join Restream. If you want to click that link, by all means, go ahead and do so. You can get in the waiting room and you can be one of the people that's lucky enough to come on live and have your career coaching questions answered. Again, this is Career Happy Hour every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting live on LinkedIn. Okay, good. So the other thing that came up is somebody had asked me a question that I thought was really intriguing and seemed fairly simple to me to answer. But I guess, you know, when you know something well enough, often you forget how long you've been doing something and how that's something that's simple to you may not be simple to other people. So what I'm going to do today is a little bit of a, how would you call it? A tutorial. Let's call it a tutorial. And what I intend to do here is perhaps give you a little quick idea or a quick introduction on how to find hiring managers on LinkedIn. Because so many of you are asking me, you know, I can see posted positions. I can sometimes find a recruiter, but how on earth do I find a hiring manager? So where we might start with this is perhaps a job. So I'm going to do a quick search potentially for a job here in Portland and use that as kind of a way to find my way through this morass called networking on LinkedIn. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, go ahead and put that in the chat. Happy to answer. Good. Welcome from Los Angeles. Angela, good to see you. Hasina, good to see you. Welcome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay with you all. And you should be able to see my LinkedIn page. Does everybody, if you don't see my LinkedIn page, I think I'm seeing it. So we'll just go based on that. But here is my LinkedIn page. And I think what you'll see here, let me get rid of that little icon there. That's kind of get rid of the caption. There we go. Okay, good. Now we're cooking with gas. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's say I'm looking for a job, and perhaps that job is in the space of, I'd really like to be in learning, development, leadership, right? Maybe executive level, okay? Executive. Okay, and then I'm looking in Portland, Oregon metropolitan area. Okay, so I'm just going to do a simple quick search and look for learning and development opportunities, chief equity officer, learning consultant, right? So I'm seeing just a handful of opportunities, okay? So let's say I take this one here, learning and development manager 2 at ZoomInfo, okay? Now they're using some very specific language here that you can see, learning and development manager, okay? So I'm going to scroll down here, and what I'm looking for is anything that says reporting to, okay? So I'm going to do a search and say reporting, reports on training program effectiveness. So there's no reporting that I can see there, okay? So what I'm going to do here is take a look at ZoomInfo as a company, and I'm going to see if I can find anybody in leadership at the company, specifically learning and development managers. Okay, so I might be able to identify number 1, peers, and number 2, hiring managers. Okay, so I'm going to go to the people side of the equation here, and it should keep, there it goes. It keeps my keywords here. Did you notice that when I switched over? It kept all those keywords. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to current company, ZoomInfo. There it is, ZoomInfo, and I'm going to click apply. Okay. Now, what am I seeing? Manager, learning and development manager, senior manager, learning and development. Okay, so I'm seeing all these people in learning to development. Okay, so that's one way to do it. You can also type the same keywords in here, just like I have, and do the search that way, and then filter by the company. Okay. Now I'm going to add an additional filter here because I want to make sure that I'm finding people. I think you saw how I did that. I just clicked the all filters option here, and it gives me a number of things that I can do. Specifically, I could probably find director level people or VP, or let's just say president. Hopefully that goes through. Or let's just say, or senior. Okay, there we go. I'm going to click apply. That's narrowed it down to 11. Okay, senior manager, vice president, senior manager, sales director. Okay, so I can go through this list and I can identify that Sean is probably the hiring manager. Why? Because he has a senior manager title. The person above that might be a director. Vice president, customer experience, not likely. Senior manager, sales development, not likely. Okay, so what I want to do is come up here and go, well, hang on. Let's do this. Let's go to all filters again, and we'll go down to title, and we'll group these together under the title thing, and then we'll put an and a training. Okay. So we'll click apply. Oh, that didn't work. How about that? Okay. What was that guy's title? Let's go back there. Let's clear that out. I'll see if I can get this guy's title. Apply. Senior manager, learning. Okay, it's learning. Okay, so I want to add and learning. Okay, so Sean appears to be the guy. Okay, so let's assume that Sean is the guy. There's a couple things I can do here, right? I can send him a connect request. I can send him a message. Okay, that forces me to use InMails. So we know he does not have premium service, but this also does a couple things. The people also viewed is a valuable spot because now I can see perhaps people that are also senior manager, learning and development. There's different people listed here, okay? So what I might also do is go back, because I don't think ZoomInfo is a very large company. I'm going to actually look and say here, I'm going to take all this out and put chief. Now, chief will get me chief executive officer, chief revenue officer, chief everybody, okay? So actually what I'll do is I will take out, let's just put chief in here. How's that? Chief. If I get a different list. Oh, I don't get anybody. Interesting. Okay, so CHRO. Nope. Let's try HR. How about human resources? Okay, so we're just going to try different things until we find, I wonder why that's not showing up. Oh, I got all these leads up here. Sorry about that. My apologies. Take out the keywords. Okay, now I had those keywords up there. My apologies, based on the role that I was looking for. I knew something was wrong. So I have VP HR, principal, right? Human resource director, people person, customer success. There it is, Alyssa, okay? I've now identified the CHRO. Now, is it likely that a CHRO would have training and development, the learning function, reporting to it? And it's likely yes. So would it be easier for me to meet with Alyssa, maybe even contact my 5 mutual connections, have a conversation in this space, okay, with these mutual connections, and see if they can introduce me to people at ZoomInfo? Because these people are already in my network, I have an easier time reaching out to these folks first and then to the other people on the list, okay? So let's go back one more, and I've got some other folks here. I've got a VP, I've got a business partner. Okay, so let me try that again. Let's come in here and do learning as a function. Okay, and I get 22. There it is, Vice President of Learning. Okay, so Thomas would be on my list. Okay, Sean would be on my list. Here's another senior manager. So it looks like senior manager of learning is a pretty normal role at the company. And so I might eliminate that and just say it's Thomas, okay? So we have Thomas, we have the CHRO. I think we're in good shape, okay? So that's exactly how I would walk through the process. And you don't have to identify a job to do this. You can certainly just enter keywords, right? So if I'm just looking for learning, there it is, learning and development, right? Or leadership and and leadership and executive, right? So I can filter it that way, and then I can go by people, okay, and then I can go by location, right? So if I'm in Portland, Oregon, I want to identify just people that have the skills or the domains that I'm interested in, okay? And so now I can narrow by company. Maybe I want to narrow by Nike. And so maybe I make this week the week of Nike. Now I can focus down on these 48 folks, starting first with the people I know, okay? I would start with Waddell, first degree connection at Nike in Portland with these keywords on his profile, okay? And then I can go to second degree. Maybe I go meet Waddell, and perhaps Waddell, okay, over here, W-A-D, Waddell Shepard, can introduce me to, sorry about that, introduced me to people at Nike. So let's clear that out, apply. Okay, so he can't introduce me to people at Nike with these keywords, but maybe he can introduce me to Nike, right? So here's 4 people that he could introduce me to at Nike, okay? So that's something to think about. Well, those are all first degree connections of mine. That's bizarre. Huh. So let's see if we clear, maybe this isn't working. This is a feature of LinkedIn that I think is problematic. Maybe this is not something I'm going to advocate because it doesn't look like it's working for me. So this might work for you because right now, Waddell Shepard, it's only showing me the common connections we have. So let me go to his profile page because I want to verify something and see if he's got his, yeah. So if you look at his connections, there's no link here, okay? So if I go to some of those other folks' connections, people in my network, I can see their connections, okay? Let me see if I've got any over here. Yeah, there's Dustin. So let's see if Dustin's done this. No, see, you see how Dustin has a link here for his 500 connections? He's allowing me now to see all of his connections. Because he's first degree, he gives me that capability, okay? And that's valuable. I now see 364 results rather than just my first degree connections that I already have. Okay, so there's many different ways to get to that place. And I think all of them are valid. You just need to find the one that works for you. So there's a lot of value in working through this idea of finding people, hiring managers specifically. So you have to kind of work backwards from the job that you're looking for, okay? And typically there's going to be somebody one step above or maybe even two steps above at the executive level that you could reach out to, have conversations with, whoever that might be. Good. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat once more the link if you want to come on live with me and get any questions answered about your situation. And so hopefully you'll see you can become a studio guest. I think we can now, I have access to a beta here on Restream, which is my live provider that allows me to have like 8 people at the same time and share screens. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but good. So if anybody wants to come on and have a question answered about their career, about networking, market planning, interviewing, anything at all, that would be great. Question in the chat from Joelle. Often most hiring managers don't have full LinkedIn profile. In that case, how to craft a connection request message. Okay, so first thing, that statement, and so I'll put that up here. Hopefully it'll show. That doesn't look like it shows all of it. But thank you, Joelle. What you're telling me is that there's nobody on LinkedIn that is either a hiring manager for that role or somebody that's above that person. So if you're looking for roles, maybe it's in a software engineering manager, and that's the manager of the person that would be hiring you, then I can guarantee you there's probably a VP of development or somebody above that person that is listed there. Perhaps there's a peer of that person. Okay, another software engineering manager, maybe in another group. Okay, so there's always a way to get to that space. Okay, let's see. How to craft a connection request without having info on common groups, interest, or post articles. Not everyone is active on LinkedIn. Is that the case? Should I try emails or is that too pushy? I always start with the people I know first, okay? I start with my position of trust. I let them know my interests, not in getting a job or demanding that they introduce me to somebody, but really just to reconnect and let them know where I'm at in my process. See if they might have an update for me, right? This is a relational process. And whenever we put ourselves in a position to be the person of interest, if you will, our need for employment is front and center. We make demands to be introduced to people. I think there's the road to that person that isn't active on LinkedIn might not be as direct as you think. And it may take 3 or 4 or 5 people to actually get an introduction to that person. So yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. Not everybody will say yes. And having an opportunity to have a conversation is all we're looking for. We're not looking for, somebody to be the answer to our prayers, so to speak. Does that make sense? Good. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Happy to answer. I'm here every Friday, 3:00 p.m. Pacific time. Okay. But I mean, sending an email, I don't think sending an email is pushy. I don't think sending a LinkedIn Connect is pushy. It depends on your approach. Okay. So if I'm reaching out to a hiring manager and it just so happens I have their email and I'm sending an application resume, they're probably wondering, why didn't this person just apply online? Okay. That's the first thing I'm thinking. The second thing I'm thinking is, hey, this person took some extra steps to reach out to me. I do appreciate that. And I might actually give them a look. I'm not so sure I appreciate their approach. And so the approach matters. So maybe instead of sending an application resume, maybe I just send an introductory email, right? A letter of introduction rather than a cover letter resume. That might work. Talking about their success, their contributions, things you may have read about their company in the press. Okay. So we're taking more of a, how would you say it, a tangential approach, a flanking strategy, if you will, when the frontal assault may not yield the results that you think it does. So that's something that takes some finesse. And so, Joelle, I don't know if you, I had some issues, by the way, with my email service provider. A bunch of you last week went to my website and tried to get a copy of the Anatomy of a Networking Conversation ebook, and you signed up for that, and my system failed. So I have put in a ticket, and they've resolved that issue. So if you want to go back there, you can get a copy of the Anatomy of a Networking Conversation off of my website at Job Seekers, where this is where we do our podcast. And that would be, I think it's in the, is it in the title of this session? No, it's not. Okay. That would be at jobseekersradio.com. And we would be happy for you to join us by actually, maybe subscribing to that particular podcast. I think there's a lot of value there. We talk around a lot of the same things that we talk about here on Career Happy Hour. There's just a lot more of it, and it's captive audience type stuff. So this is stuff you can listen to when you're, on your exercise cycle or going on your walk with your dog, where you can't be here on a Friday at 3:00. That's fine. Just grab the podcast. It's also valid. Okay. Good. Let me see here. Tips to remain authentic while exploring and remain open to possibilities. Thank you, Angela. I like that question. Here's the thing with that question. I always think you should be authentic. Okay. But that doesn't mean you should make the topic of discussion your need for employment. Okay. So that's the first clarifying thing. Always be authentic. That's advice I would give to everybody. The other thing is open to opportunities, right? Or exploring possibilities. That's internal to you, right? That's something that you articulate, say, on a marketing plan or a dream job description, something that you use to guide your activities. So that's internal to you. That's not something you share with an audience. So what that means is you can take the opportunity today to focus on this one niche of that plan, right? Just one little piece of that plan, whatever that is, okay? And so if you say that this week, that's my focus, I now know when everybody I talk to should be related to that idea. And not that it needs to be singular, but certainly it does help keep focus for a job seeker in that way. So if you don't have some kind of plan or a document that outlines what it is you're looking for, the strengths you bring to the market, outside of your resume, right? Resume is an external marketing piece. I'm talking about an internal document that guides your activities, that outlines your target companies and the people you'd love to talk to and work with and the culture, et cetera. So those are things that I would encourage you to do is actually document some of these things so we can actually know what it is you're looking for inside of us, so that when you go in front of another person to have a conversation and to remain authentic, then your call to action, your outcome, your ask, if you will, is what we talk about in the Anatomy of a Networking Conversation, makes that a little bit easier. Okay. Let's see here. Janani, welcome. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the much needed session. You're welcome. So does it mean that sending in-mail application at the very, at the very beginning does not work most of the time and the hiring managers want us to apply online? So here's the thing. I think where most people get confused is that the job search is a process, Okay. So if we look at the job search as a process, start to finish, okay, that is a process, right? Independent of a company's hiring process. Companies have a hiring process. So let's look first at the company hiring process. What do you think happens in advance of a posting online? Okay. Let's think about that for a second. Before a company has a need to post it online, they've developed maybe a business case. They've gotten a budget. They've gone to their finance people to make sure that they can afford it. Right? There's a whole bunch of things that happen before that requisition ever hits the streets. Okay. Not the least of which is somebody influencing the hiring manager, or the hiring manager having some sort of strategic discussion among their executive leadership team as to what the future looks like. Okay. And why this need came up. Maybe they're backfilling a vacated role. There's a lot of decisions being made upstream. Okay. So if we look at that hiring process, and upstream from the posting is a bunch of things, that's where we want to operate in our job search process. Okay. That would be called the proactive search. I'm proactively connecting with hiring managers, peers, target company members, the custodian, the CEO, doesn't matter, as long as you're interacting with people who have influence. Now, you're not going to know they have influence until you actually meet them. Okay. So that's proactive search. Now, once that thing is posted, it's really hard to go backwards and be proactive, isn't it? Now we're reactive. What does that mean? As a reactive strategy, reaching out to somebody with hat in hand and a resume and an in-mail with that resume attached, maybe even a cover letter. Don't you think it's a little late to be influencing? It might be. It might not be, but we don't know. The odds are somebody's been influencing the proactive portion of the company process, and it wasn't you. Okay. And it wasn't you. So if we're reacting to opportunities, just recognize that, yes, online application resume is a minimum standard. And you would take it in advance from there to contacting a peer, a hiring manager, anybody inside the company that could improve your chances in terms of your candidacy with that company. That makes perfect sense to me. Now, the challenge you'll have there is if you keep doing that over and over and over again with the same people at the same company, what are you developing a reputation as? Okay, what is your reputation in that space? Okay, can you answer that question? Answer that when you get a chance. Answer that question. Okay, I'm developing a reputation as a job-seeking professional that's desperate and will do anything to work at that company. Is that the kind of reputation you're trying to posit? And you may have a different perspective on that. Okay, but I appreciate the question. Okay, good. Nick has a question here. An observation. I had a good experience with the inverse. I applied for a job online and then through some networking discussions was introduced to the hiring manager who during our conversation pulled up my application and started to interview me. Amen, brother. So, like I said, the application resume is a minimum standard. Okay. And if you want minimum results, stop there. If you want to maximize the opportunities, continue to network. Now, I would contend in your situation, Nick, it wasn't the fact that you reached out to the hiring manager. It's the fact that you knew somebody that knew the hiring manager. And so you weren't standing there alone. You were standing there with somebody who introduced you to that hiring manager. Okay. So that the first, it's best to have first degree connections with hiring managers, meaning you're not only connected to them on LinkedIn, but you know them. There's a difference, right? There's a reason why leaders hire people that they used to work with at their prior company. So let's say a leader goes from company A to company B. Guess what? They typically bring their high quality talent with them. Why? Because it's known commodity. I know that person and I know how they perform. That is ideal, right? So that's the ideal, is to work with a leader that values your expertise. Second best is building a relationship with a hiring manager you have yet to work for. Okay. Third best is to be a recommended third party, right? Third party validation is really valuable. Okay. Good on you though, Nick. Congratulations. I think that's awesome. LinkedIn helped me network with the person who introduced me to the hiring manager. Great. Now, so the funny thing is there, Nick, I would be interested to hear from you. How tight was that relationship with the person on LinkedIn that introduced you to the hiring manager? Was that a friend, a family member, an arm's length connection, a stranger? Isn't it funny how it's the strength of relationship between third party and hiring manager that matters? That you don't have to have a tight relationship with third party. You just have to be the referred one. Okay. Good. Hasina says, I received an invitation to apply for a position from a recruiter from Indeed. I checked the company. I found another position I'm interested in. Should I just apply directly to that last position? Go for a conversation. Okay. Go for a conversation. Don't think that what your first step is application resume. Okay. I go for a conversation. If that person is reaching out to me and has time to reach out to me, invite me to interview, to apply for this role, they have time to have a conversation. Okay. So whenever possible, I'm trying to have a conversation. Why? To present my brand, the value I bring to the marketplace, so that when they see what we have to bring to the marketplace, they slot us into the right level and the right role. Okay. That's my advice for you. Terry, as a talent acquisition guy, might have different advice, but I don't know that it's a either or. But my first step would be to see if I can get a conversation. If I can't, then I apply for both roles, actually. Because I want to honor the recruiter for reaching out to me, I'm going to apply for the role they said I should apply for, and then I get the conversation, okay? So really we're driving at what we want to do through the application resume, if we're invited or not, is to get a conversation, okay? That's what an interview is, right? An interview is conversation. What is networking? It's a conversation. They're almost synonymous, ideally speaking, okay? Good. Not interested. I'm not sure what that means. I'm always interested, always ears open, okay? A recruiter doesn't just have one requisition, okay? They may have invited you through Indeed or some tool that they have that invites everybody, okay? That's okay. All I'm looking for is a conversation, okay? And I'm always interested. I'm always ears open. I'm always willing to have a conversation with anybody, okay? As soon as we start getting in the habit of turning opportunities down, what happens? Things go sideways, okay? We start turning down things that could be a fit if we gave an opportunity to do so, okay? Joelle, back on the board. Is it better to connect with recruiters or hiring managers first? Connect with everybody. Anybody who says yes, right? So you could reach out to 10 in both categories, and my suspicion is you might get 5 hiring managers say yes and 5 recruiters say yes, or you might get 0. I'm reaching out and connecting with. So it's a process, right? It doesn't matter which one you reach out to first. It's who would be willing to have a conversation with me. My experience is many recruiters do not respond on LinkedIn for a number of reasons. They get inundated with those kinds of requests, number one. Number two, their company has corporate policy that, hey, we have to track all of our conversations for compliance. Everything has to be done on email. So yes, once you connect, you could send email. It's been my experience, many recruiters hide their email address. So anyway, I'm not here to denigrate the talent acquisition function, but that's my experience. And I've coached thousands of candidates like yourself. So I don't think it creates any conflicts unless you've applied for a job, okay? So let me be clear. This isn't about your employment. Networking is about building a relationship with a person where there's mutual interest, okay? It's not, so mutual interest could be anything, really. Fill in the blank with anything. Maybe it's my need for relief during a pandemic. Maybe I need toilet paper. You know, I don't like to use those kind of examples, but it's true. It could just be about anything except a position of self-interest, right? Anyhow, good. So Nick says he came back and answered the question. Yes, arm's length connection. And during our conversations, we found we knew some of the same people in our field. Familiarity. Wow, I can't even say that word very well. Good for you, Nick. So let's replicate that again. Maybe even swimming upstream some more. Maybe even saying thank you to that guy that introduced us. Let us know what happened. And see if there's anybody else he might introduce us to, okay? 1,000, got it, good. I agree. If you can, try to develop the opportunity for a conversation. Thank you, Terry, for validation. Appreciate that. Conversation is. Sure, I am interested. Okay, good. Awesome. Well, I think I covered a lot of ground here today. If you have additional questions, go ahead and let me know. Put them in the chat. And then I will also put the link again in here. Hopefully you guys are seeing these links. If you want to come on live, it looks like on LinkedIn, I think we got about a dozen folks. Let me refresh here and see what happens. Yeah, we got about a dozen. Anybody want to come on live? Anybody want to come on live? Anybody? You can use the link in the chat. Also put it over here in YouTube land. Anybody at all want to come on live, use that link. If it's working or not, let me know. Maybe it'd just be valuable to know if that link is working. And maybe we could come on and have some conversation. What do you think? Oh, by the way, if you find these kind of things helpful, please share this with your network. There should be, regardless of the platform you're on, there should be a share link. I know on YouTube, they have a share button. You can share to all kinds of networks. On LinkedIn, there's definitely a share button at the bottom of the screen. So please share it with your network. Let them know what you learned during the session. And certainly use the hashtag careerhappyhour. Let them know this is here every Friday, 3 p.m. It would really help spread the word about this great service, okay? Because it's free. Hello? It's free. When it's free, it's for me, okay? Good. Let's see if we got it. Nope, nobody in the waiting room. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, let me see if there's any other questions. I don't have a question, but I can come on live. Okay, looks like Terry. I like to share in my network. Good. Oh, Terry came on. Let me get my headphones. Let's see what the venerable, the honorable Terry Smith has to say. Terry. Oh, are we getting a little bit of an echo?
Well, I'm not sure if honorable is quite the right word for it, but I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, you might want to turn. You might be listening to the broadcast because I'm getting an echo. So you might want to turn off the broadcast or mute mute that tab so we don't get the echo.
I did. Huh. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Is it still?
You have a browser window open somewhere?
Yeah, hang on.
So when you click that link, it came to Restream. So there's probably a window there that needs to be closed. Is it not working?
Not working. No. Wait.
Good stuff, everybody. Working on technical issues.
Right.
Well, you're here. You're here, but I'm hearing an echo. So do you have any other browser tabs open?
Do not. Hang on a second. No.
Okay, let me How about you guys out there? Maybe you're hearing. Are you going through your speaker? Let me see here. I don't know. And it's about us. So it's probably what you were experiencing when we tested this out before, Terry.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to assume there isn't an echo and just move forward with the show. Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll back out.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Okay. Well, I'm back. I'm back. Yeah, there is an echo. Sorry about that, guys. So one of the problems is if you click the link to join live and you still have the broadcast active on your LinkedIn page, then it's going to pick up the audio from that. So you have to either mute that tab or disable it. So sorry about that. Yeah, I know that the headphones would stop that echo, but what can I say? I'm only in control of my side of the equation. Good. Okay. Let's see here. I think we got some questions. I'd like to share to my network, suggest ways to post. So Angela, what I would do is I would just come to the presentation. In fact, why don't I do this? Why don't I just, this might be really fun. So I'll share my screen. And I'll go over to this screen over here, so you'll probably see something that's kind of fun. But as I'm sharing my screen here, you'll see down at the bottom, I have the capacity to share. And then I just write something that I learned. Wow, I learned so much about whatever you learned, okay? That's super easy to do, right, Angela? And then just use the career tag, career happy hour, right? It'll even give you the hashtag there. That's all I would do. And then that's all. And then just click post. That'd be super easy. Okay. So I'll discard that because it just seems kind of weird. It seems kind of weird to post my own stuff. So anyway, thank you for doing that. How can I just post your session as Hasina? I don't know. I'm not seeing, yeah, I don't see anything, Hasina, sorry. I think using headphone, okay, we hear you, echo, okay, back in the chat, good. Question, what are the nonverbal communication pitfalls to avoid an all-day 8-hour person interview while wearing a mask and social distancing? Nick, I don't think that anybody should be subjected to an 8-hour interview. I think that's torture. If they're not willing to break it up and say, okay, we're social distancing, we're using masks, and we're going to sanitize in between interviews, you certainly have to use your best judgment, but I'm going to suggest they break that into 2 days. That's just me. Now, I know lining up calendars and doing that is difficult. Don't mistake that part of it. But if you're talking nonverbal communication, you have hands, you have eyes. They may not see your smile, but if you have crooked teeth like me, that might be a benefit. Anyway, so that's how I'd handle that. I don't know if there's any answer to that in terms of nonverbals. I think you need to enunciate a lot louder because you're trying to speak through a mask. There's probably some muffling that happens there, and you probably want to practice with a mask on. Just an idea. So if you're spatial, somebody said it the other day, much better than me. I think that was Kelly McEnroy Edwards. Great guy. If you don't know him, you should look him up on LinkedIn. He said spatial distancing. Okay. And because we want to remain social. We're social beings. We're networking, right? We're interviewing. If we're going to use a mask, we better practice with a mask. Okay. Good. Looks like Terry back in the chat. Good. So maybe next time I will. I think what happened, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong. You probably went in the chat and clicked that link. It opened in a new tab, and the other tab was still running. So maybe next time we just open it in the current tab. Maybe send a private message. Anyway. All right, folks. Well, if there's no other questions, I will call it a great career happy hour. For those of you who do celebrate, I did want to wish you a happy Father's Day. Enjoy your weekend. I know there's a lot of voices in the marketplace right now that are vying for your attention. And if you're in a job search mode, that might derail you. So take some time to distance yourself from any voices so you can focus more completely on your search if that's what you choose to do. Okay. We all need to stand guard at the gateway of our mind. Okay. So that would be my, I guess, my advice for the day. So I'll hopefully see you guys next Career Happy Hour. I think I'm even coming up there as talking. Wow, that was funny. Bizarro. Sorry about that, guys. Working technology is so much fun. That's all I can say. Okay, good. All right. Well, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday on Career Happy Hour. Take care.